Hello there, and I'm back again. And it'll probably be a stream that is not terribly long, but still there were some things that I thought I'd talk about, and as it has usually been lately, I thought I'd talk about my isekai story. I have been continuing work on that story, and as last time, I won't be reading anything more today. I still have to do a little bit clean up, probably at least read through of the next portion, and I haven't gotten around to that yet, but I have been doing other things, and that includes writing a little bit more on the what should we call it? I had some progression on the current point in the storyline, so writing, continuing the text as it stretches from the start to the point where I am without any holes. So I managed to write a little bit more, extend the continuous text starting from the start that I have written, and added a couple of pages there. They are still on the way to where they are going, but they are at least getting closer. And I have been thinking a little bit about this third part that I'm working on. So basically, the characters are going somewhere, and when they get there, they are going to do something. Something will happen naturally, and I have been thinking a little bit about what that will be. I have some, let's call them scenes, some sequences, some events that will happen. I have more or less decided upon, but the overall sequence of events is still not. It still has some missing pieces, and what I have been doing is trying to fill in those blanks, and one thing I'm doing is simply just to think about what could be happening. You have this villain, of course, that is doing villainous things, and you can try to pretend to be the villain and see what would he have thought of, what would he be doing at this time. And then there's the opposite side of the equation. You have the protagonist, and what is he doing, and what is he thinking of, what is he thinking about what the villain might be doing. And then there are some scenes that sort of are required on the way to the ending. There are some scenes that handle some turning points, some events that are relevant for characters and so on. And also some scenes that, well, if you have a location that is somewhat unique, not necessarily in the sense that nobody has thought of something similar before, but rather in that in the setting it is a somewhat unique and exotic location. The characters go there and spend time there, do something. It's natural to think that try to make the most of it. So, what sort of things could happen in such a place that wouldn't happen anywhere else, for example? So, trying to find some things that could be happening and would be interesting if it happened. And together I'll hopefully end up with something that's useful. And I think this is the part so far that has been most complicated, and the reason why it is complicated is that at this point there are so many pieces. You have the characters, and you have gradually getting more of those. There are more people that are involved in events, and then there are locations. You have various countries and so on that have gotten involved, and this sort of makes things a little bit more complicated. And you sort of want things to fit together, and that sort of makes things a little bit more difficult. Also, one thing about the place where I'm going and the events that are surrounding the I say where I'm going, but of course the characters are going. One thing about the location the characters are going to and the events surrounding the character going there, so basically you have the events surrounding the characters going there, and the things, the characters that are there, and the context is that well, so far there have been the bit that I have read so far, I have at least some hints at the possibility of war, somebody trying to start a war, and in the continuation you naturally have things become a little bit more complicated, more things are going on, and more countries are involved, more factions, meaning that events would naturally be a little bit more complicated, many potential players, and you also have we have to fit together in some kind of way, and you have a need for at least knowing something about these different factions. So you need to flesh things out a little bit, and that means that I will probably need to do a little bit more work. So it's not simply just rushing through and writing it, and so it's for example, the beginning you had one town and you had two characters in addition to the main character a little bit more perhaps, but there's a few low number of characters, and things were a little bit simpler, but now things are a little bit more complicated, and the end will be a little bit simpler again, because then you have things narrowed down, but I guess the portion that I'm in now is the one that expands this world the most, perhaps. Sets up many of the different nations that are involved. The last bit of the story was visit to one location in the world, but it was much simpler, much smaller in scope. So I'm thinking I have put up this let's call this scenario, and put some pieces up on the map and wanted to try to make the most of them. So that's okay. So it's it'll probably be a little bit slow progress at the point where I am now, but I think what I'll do is I will approach the problem from several angles, and one of these is simply thinking about what makes sense story-wise. Another is to think about scenes, events, and so on that I would like to see, and then there is the third thing, which is simply to continue writing, and as I gradually add to the story, events progress naturally, and you also have characters that get filled out, and events that happen, and so on. So you get a little bit for free, you could say, by doing it that way. So together, these three approaches will hopefully be able to bring me through this part of the book. And when I've managed to finish up this one, the rest should be fairly straightforward. Simply to write down the events, and I have already written down a little bit of text, quite a lot of text, not quite a lot of, some text at least, for the final part of the book, and I know some other events, so if I reach that point, it's simply to sit down and write up the missing pieces, but that's still a little bit distance away. Before I get that far, I have to finish, or rather flesh out the missing pieces of part 3. And then there's another thing which I guess is kind of relevant to how this story is structured, how it will be structured in the future, and one, I'm not sure dilemma is the right word, but one sort of thing that I had a problem with was that the story progresses quite fast, events progress quite fast, and you can't really stop to have a much development of events or fleshing out of locations and characters and so on, because the way the story has been written so far, and the way that events have led to subsequent events and so on, means that it's I think it fits best to just continue writing in the same style. I mean that there will be a lot of things that happen in the fairly short period of time. So let's say the events that happen as a result of the hero arriving in this world and so on, and the initial playout of these events will probably be something that happened a couple of weeks at most, and most of this is due to travel time and so on. But what I concluded with, ended up with, was that I'll just continue to write the story this way, and then I did manage to find a way to sort of structure it so that there's an, let's say, open ending. You have a fleshing out of the world and the setting and so on, and then I can take a step back and do separate stories for all the different locations and characters and so on afterwards. The basic idea becomes that I sort of let the initial event play out and develop the character, the character spends most of his time with, and hopefully I'll be able to establish the overarching challenge or challenges that faces the hero, opposes the hero and his associates, and have him at least put in place the starting blocks for trying to address these problems. And if I manage to do that, I can I think I can end it there, the initial story arc. And then I can go back and have a look at the different locations and so on that the character spends time in. So, for example, he starts out in this fantasy world, and there are many countries in this fantasy world that he probably won't get the opportunity to visit during this first story arc, and there will probably be a lot of problems remaining in the world after the initial events are finished. So it will be possible to set a story arc in this world that deals with how the hero attempts to solve the problems that exist in this place. So you will have a self-contained story that focuses on this specific location. And similarly, I think I talked about last time that I had more or less decided on visiting Earth, current day Earth, the place the hero died in at the start, or rather before, in the events leading up to the start of the story. And naturally, it then becomes possible to set a story, if not necessarily entirely on Earth, at least have a story arc that focuses on events connected to the problems that exist on Earth, or that are related to Earth, and so on and so on. So that sort of solves two problems for me. One is that it allows me to continue the first arc in the story in a way that's consistent with the way the story has been written so far, and it allows me to flesh out the events that are related to sort of places that might feature in the initial events, but didn't necessarily lend themselves well to staying long in that place. So that makes it a little bit easier to think about how things will be going forward. And I guess this kind of structure also means that if I ever get to a point where it feels natural to write an end to the story, well, then that will be a continuation to the first call it story arc that sort of builds up this world. So you have the establishment of the setting, and then you have one or more stories set in this setting, and then you have the final events that conclude the problems that existed. How realistic it is to think that I will actually reach that point, that's a separate discussion, but having come this far, thought this much, at least now I have sort of hooks to hang the different ideas I will have in relation to the story also. So that's nice. But with that, I think I'll end it for today. And yes, so thank you for listening, and hopefully I will be back in soon. Until then, bye bye.